Hi, and welcome to Stitched from My Stash, episode 11. I'm Julie, and I'm coming to you from just north of Glasgow in the UK. Today is a cloudy, overcast day, but it's dry, and I'm sitting here with the window behind me, so I'm getting a real terrible glare on my glasses. But I can't go anywhere else because the rest of my sewing is really a mess. So I'm going to sit here for now. If I take my glasses off, everything's quite blurry. So I may be ducking around a bit to try and avoid the glare on my glasses. But it's still there, isn't it? I'll have to look down like this. Okay, so thank you for joining me on my sewing, crochet and knitting podcast. And one of my aims is to get through as much of my stash as possible. I will be buying some new things, I suppose, as the year progresses, but I want to use what I have. If I have to be a bit imaginative, so be it. But just want to get rid of as much stuff as possible. And I do have a lot of fabric and yarn to use up. So, as I said, thank you for joining me, particularly if you've subscribed. That's great. Nice to have your company. So, first of all, what am I wearing? So I'm wearing a Merchant and Mills Fielder dress, which I made in 2022 November, because I just looked it up in my sewing planner book, and it's made out of a needle cord, which I think I bought in a charity shop, and it has a stretch neckline. I'm wearing a t-shirt under it because it's still quite cold today, and stretch cuffs, and it's a 3/4 sleeve. I will move the camera back and stand up just to get a view of the length, if you can. It's sort of just on the knee. I've got brown woolly tights on, and it's a raglan top. I should think it's a fairly easy make. The corduroy is nice and soft. It's, I suppose we call it needle cord. Very soft. And I also made out of this fabric a pair of Merchant and Mills Eve trousers, but I dyed the fabric into a dark brown, which brings me on to this particular top. I'm looking around for, I think it was before Christmas, or was it early January? Can't remember. I went to a Get Your Colours Done event in Glasgow, and it turns out, according to the woman doing the presentation, I suit cool colours. Now, these are cool colours, and this beige, light brown, isn't a cool colour. And I can see now this colour doesn't look good on me. It does wash me out. So I put this on, this cowl, which a friend of mine made me quite a few years ago, to give it a bit of brightness, a bit of oomph. But I may dye this dress. I have some dye, which I bought 3 years ago, and I have a navy. Oh, it's not a navy, it's a jeans blue. I also have this tulip red, which there's a blue red on that colour card, whether or not this is blue red. And blue, I think, does suit me. But a couple of years ago, I did try dyeing some linen using, I think it was one of these dye-alongs. And I wanted a blue then. Oh, I can't remember. I think it was like a bright mustard type fabric. And I wanted a blue then. And I dyed it. It's in a drawer over there. I'm not going to get it out. I may get it out next week perhaps. And it came out almost black. I think perhaps the weight of the fabric, there was not enough weight compared to how much dye is in the carton. So perhaps I could have put more fabric in and I would have had a lighter tone of blue. Subsequently, I have bought a kit where you can strip the colour out and start again. But it's so much faff, and you have to put your machine on, front loader, really, really hot. And then you have to put it on when it's empty, So I'll see. I wouldn't mind having a go at dyeing this. I think this is an easier dye. It's put in a bucket type dye, I think, this tulip red one. Whereas this is to put in your washing machine. Anyway, I may have a go at dyeing this. Not sure if I'll do it this week, but I can see it's too yellow in tone. Anyway, and what's the point of wearing things if you don't feel comfortable? So I'm just looking at my little list I've got today. I only have 2 finished items, but one of them is the quilt I was working on, which is massive. So I'm pleased I finished that. And I think last week I did show 1 sock out of the pair. Well, I now have 2 socks. So I finished these, I don't know, last night perhaps. I've tied these sock blockers together. But as you will see, I haven't blocked them. So I will try and block them over the week. The colours are matching as far as the cuffs. I think they will be much nicer blocked, although I must admit I don't think I can ever remember blocking socks, but I will block them. And they are very soft. I think it's an All Stars yarn. Not sure if I can find the ball band at the minute. It's a superwash wool, and it's got a reinforced heel, and the heels match, the toes match, but then somehow I lost the matching on the rib. Anyway, and I notice the second one I did, the rib, my tension was much looser than the first one. This is the first one. So I have tried before, not sure if I did complete 2 socks, knitting 2 socks on a long needle at the same time. I may try that. I'll see. I'm obviously not very consistent because this one is a much looser knit than this one. This one looks a bit neater. So that's a possibility. I may do 2 socks at the same time. I'll see. Pleased with those. And another reason I may cast on some more socks is that just to keep up the skill of learning this particular pattern. This is the pattern I use. Just a straightforward vanilla sock. This is a free download off Ravelry. And loads and loads of people have used this pattern and put up their pictures of socks. So it's obviously very popular. Really well laid out pattern. There's loads of info to guide you through. I would definitely recommend this pattern. So I may cast on some more socks. I do have, that's some of the colour I use, the self-patterning All Star Superwash. But I have this, I think this, some pillow protectors came in this bag, and it's quite good to keep yarn in. So I do have some nice colours in here. So I will probably cast on some more socks, but I don't think I will rush to finish those. I think I'll take my time and just have them as an ongoing project, just to keep the sock making going. So that's my first finished object. My second finished object is the quilt I was working on, which I'm a bit of an organic maker in that I just carry on without perhaps really thinking about it and planning and whatever. So this quilt, I had cut it out perhaps 2 years ago, and it was one of the projects I wanted to get finished and out of the way. So I thought it was going to be a double quilt, but it's finished. I've put it on a double bed, and it's massive. It measures, I think, I'm going to say inches, 100 inches width, 100 inches length. So this probably could fit on a king size. Now, we have a king size bed, and we have 2 spare beds, which are doubles, but one of the doubles is quite high, so it will fit nicely over that. So here's the finished quilt. I have taken a video outside, which I'll try and perhaps put at the end of this video. My partner rigged up a frame. He put something on the roof bars of the car, and it was a nice wooden frame, so it's on top of the frame. But this is the finished quilt, and it is really snug and heavy, and it's how many, 6 blocks across, 6 blocks down, and then sashing in between. Each block is 12.5 inches before it's fitted into the sashing, and these squares are 3.5, I think. Yeah, something like that. So I could stand back a bit and take some shots. I may do that in a moment, but I can show some of the patches on here, the blocks. They are different pinks, and on the back I've managed to use a piece of fabric I had from a charity shop, which is a quilt cover, a duvet, which had been disassembled, and I put some white stripping around that to make it big enough. So as I said, I will add some, excuse the wibbly wobbly, I will add the footage of what I took outside, but essentially it's a lovely big heavy double/king size quilt, and I'll speak about the wadding in a moment. The binding is something that I'd bought off eBay, which I did, bit of thread there, which I did 2-inch binding and machine sewed it here and then slip stitched down the back. So the backing I really like, it's very pretty, and I have taken some photographs of this, so I'll try and add them at the end. But this bit was a duvet cover that was already cut up, that I bought from a charity shop, and white quilt fabric from my stash. And you can see the quilting I did on my domestic machine, straight, well, diagonal lines, and using sew all thread in the bobbin, pink, and then quilting thread in the top. Now, it's not perfect by any means. You know, some of my squares aren't matching up. Some of my stitching isn't straight. But as somebody, I always say, perfection is the enemy of finished. I'm pleased with it. It's a really nice weight. And I find having a heavy quilt like this is really nice to make a good night's sleep. You feel it's almost like one of those weighted blankets. So it is a nice weight, and it'll go on the bed in one of the spare rooms. Our other spare room our granddaughter sleeps in, so that one gets used pretty frequently. So I'm very pleased with that, with king size / double quilt. It did take a long time to piece the blocks together. I thought I'd done more than I had a couple of years ago, but they were all cut out ready to go. I'm just going to store this there for now. And a couple of things to add about the quilt. Let me bring the camera back. Excuse me for the wibbly wobbly. Right, a couple of things to say about the quilt. I used this for basting, which is a spray baste I bought in Dunelm. I think it's about £8 a can. And the last couple of quilts I've made, I've used this. It was effective, but what I tried to do, and I have a basket here somewhere, well, what I did do, I used my offcuts of wadding, pieced them together to make enough for the wadding for that quilt. But when you do that, you do get potentially more puckers. It is more difficult to ease the wadding out smoothly, so that's a potential issue. But that's all I have left of the wadding out of a really big bag. I think I've got some polyester wadding in a cupboard, which I'm not sure how soon I'm going to make another quilt, but when I do, I might have a look at how much that I've got. But for that quilt, it's all cotton, and I've got a couple of, they're not big, but these pieces, and then the rest are strips, which will come in for something. It's lovely and soft. It's a combination of some is bamboo, some's cotton, so nice wadding. But that's all I've got left of that. So that was the wadding spray basting, but I also pinned it because I didn't want to go lifting it up and then for the wadding and the quilt sandwich to come apart. So I used these pins. Can't remember where I got these, but they are designed for quilting, and they got a bend in them. And these are really soft, so they are quite easy to open and close. Like I said, I don't know, did I get them cotton patch online? I can't remember. But they are a nice quality of pin. So I pinned, I think, 5 in each block, and obviously took them out as I was machining the quilting pattern. And I also use, which I'm sure if you're a quilter you'll use these, gloves for when you're passing the quilt top in your machine, because the fabric just slips. So these provide grip. They've got little paddy things. These provide grip when you're actually quilting the 3 parts of the quilt sandwich. So I try and make sure I use those, otherwise it is quite difficult to get purchase on the fabric. So anything else, I'm just checking my notes, anything else for me to say about the quilt. No, so I'm really pleased with that. It's done. Provides a little bit of space in my sewing room. It will go on a bed in a spare room, or I have a wardrobe where I have some other quilts and there's room in the drawer there. So it'll be out of my sewing room and somewhere else, and I'm pleased with it. So that's my 2 finished items. So I'm going on now to plans for this coming week. Having done that quilt, I want to do something smaller. Plus, we've lived in this house now just over a year, and we've done loads of decorating. We've had builders in, but we've done loads of decorating ourselves. And the builders were in, I think, last week and the week before, rejigging the bathroom. So we need to get decorating now. So I'm going to have to not go all out on my sewing, but rein it in a bit. And because I was spending days on that quilt, rein it in a bit and get on with the decorating. I know which I'd rather be doing. So I want to do some smaller things this week. Now, I bought these 2 patterns at a quilt show in Glasgow, March last year. Haven't touched them. So this is the type of thing that I've started the channel for, is to get me motivated to make the things I've been storing up. So these are little, I don't know if they're toys or just cuties. This is called Fiona Field Mouse. And then he's called Finley Field Mouse. So you have the pattern for the clothes and the mice. And then you buy, I think this is enough felt to do both of the mice in a variety of colours. Now, I don't think I'm particularly skilled at any sewing really, but my hand sewing is, I can be quite scruffy. So how these will turn out, who knows? But I'm going to give it a go and try and persevere and get my stitches neat. And they'll either be for me or for our little granddaughter. But that's going to be a bit of fun, and they're small projects, so they shouldn't take too long. The other thing that I'm going to try and work on was also a purchase at the Glasgow, I can't remember what it was called, Quilt and Craft Hobby Show or something. It was very good. I'll probably go again this year. Is this, and some of you may have come across this before, but me and the friend I went with hadn't seen it before. And it's called stick weaving. Now, I thought this was quite expensive. I can't remember how much the mice were, whatever. But for £10, you've got, if I can, they're in this bag here. You've got 2 of these sticks. There is 2. 2 of these sticks and a plastic darning needle. I think that's expensive. And a set of instructions. Anyway, we fancied it and we splashed out £10. So I've started, I'm not going to show you how it works now because I haven't done it for ages, but I have started doing some of it, and you end up, you assemble the strip you make and you can turn it into a hanging or a coaster. Now I'm aiming for a rug. This yarn I bought many years ago. in a charity shop in Leominster in Herefordshire. St Michael Hospice shop, which is a really brilliant charity shop. And when I bought it, it was the aim of using it for knitting. Now, the more I got into knitting, the more I realised I think this is rag wool anyway. It's quite coarse, so I don't think you'd use that for knitting a sweater. But I have probably enough to make a useful size little circular rug. That's a pinky, more of a red rusty tone. It isn't as bright as that's coming out brighter in the camera. A brown and a lighter brown. So there's plenty there to make a nice circular rug for my sewing room. So that's some, and it's, once you get into the rhythm, I can imagine it is pretty mindless or mindful, whichever way you want to look at it, a pretty mindless process to knit, to do the stick knitting. Like I said, I'm not going to do it now because I can't remember how to do it. I have to look at the instructions. So that's something I want to go on. Again, it's been malingering in a basket, on a shelf, waiting for me to get to it. So that's my 2 plans this week: to make these little cuties, to have a go at the stick knitting, and possibly cast on some socks. Oh, and the crochet blanket, which I've done nothing on. So the list is growing there, which isn't always a good thing, is it? If you're going to have targets, they've got to be achievable. So that's it for today. Thank you so much for watching, and look after yourselves. Take care, and see you again next week. Bye.